forces that shape the earth, and now we need to kind of switch gears and see the external forces that are shaping the earth. Now, if you look at this screen, you're seeing some of the items, your wind, heat, your cold, your glaciers. Those are all things that we really know a lot about. Some of the things we don't know a lot about are the weathering and erosion. Now, you're going to cover these in science class this year also, but this gives us a kind of first look at what we're doing with some of those items when we're shaping the earth. Now, weathering. Weathering is just when we're wearing down our Earth's natural surface. So you have the two main types of weathering. The first type is that mechanical weathering. Well, we didn't put a definition on here for you for the mechanical weathering, but that's just a natural process that breaks rock into smaller pieces. So when you're talking about the mechanical weathering, you have the wear down. Maybe you're by the shore of the water, and you're going through and you see some of those pieces broken down. That's your mechanical weathering. Our chemical weathering is a little bit different. That's the process that changes rock into a new substance through interaction among elements in the air, water, and the minerals in the rock. So now you're doing a little more of your science equation when you have the chemical weathering compared to the mechanical weathering, which is just that natural process. Just remember, mechanical is natural process, chemical is going to have to mix the elements in there. Now, erosion, we're all pretty familiar with erosion. That's just when you have the result of weathering on matter. You're going to have weathered material going through, and then most of the time you're talking about with the water. So just kind of think of a big hill. You get a huge heavy rain. What's going to happen to all that loose material that was on the hill? It's all going to run down. And that can be the same thing, that's going to happen, you see on the notes, the river deltas, things like that. You are seeing all that with the natural erosion with that water. Now, the other way that we can move those is wind. If you guys remember last year in your 7th grade U.S. history class, remember they talked about the Dust Bowl. Well, the Dust Bowl is going to move all that soil, right? And unfortunately, it's going to ruin all the farmland at that time too. But that's what you're talking about when you have that erosion. It's the wearing away of our natural surface. Now, you see that term in there called loess, okay? That silt and clay sediment that's fertile soil, that's what we're going to be, that's going to be that layer that helps us grow things. So if we don't have that, like in the Dust Bowl, we're not going to be able to grow anything. Now, the glacier, luckily we don't have to deal with the glaciers too much anymore, just a few parts of the world, but not in Minnesota, luckily. You're just making sure you're seeing those huge items out of those huge masses of ice that are going down and just completely destroying the land. Now, what you have to do is when you look at weathering and erosion, you have to remember that they're the part that we're actually building the soil. Okay? Now, because of the weathering and erosion, you're going to have different types of climates, and you're going to have to be able to grow different types of vegetations. You can see my mouse moving right here, the soil factors. These are the type of things that you'll get into in science class this year. Don't worry about them for social studies class. That's the beauty of social studies. We leave that to the experts like Mr. Rizzo and Miss Severson. Now, the seasons. Seasons, when we're talking about the seasons, we all know the seasons when you're talking about spring, summer, fall, winter. Okay, some people say in Minnesota we have construction season, which we're in right now. But the seasons are all because of the tilt or the revolution of the earth. So when you're looking at here, we're just talking about the relationship between where we are and our relationship and position of the earth in relation to the sun. So we're going to take a couple minutes to look at some of these items. Now, when we do this, you have your you have your weather and climate. These are the two main terms that we really look at today. Now, they're different, and people use them the same all the time, but they're actually very, very different. Okay, if you look at weather, the condition of the atmosphere at a particular location and time. Like if you look out the window right now, it's kind of cold today. They say a high of 61 today. You're talking about a lot of rain coming in at about 1 o'clock. You have Park High School's homecoming tonight, so it's going to be a little chilly if you're going to that game. The climate, that's your long term now. Okay, so if you're saying Minnesota has cold winters, well, if you remember in January we get that week, it's always, minus 10 to minus 20. That's more the climate, your long extended periods of time. Weather is today, climate is over the long haul. Now, many things cause the weather, though, and our end result of all this is we're going to look at climate regions across across all the continents and across the earth. And you're actually on Monday going to work on a world climate region map that kind of walks you through some of these things too. But here are the items that actually cause the weather. How much water vapor do you have? So how much precipitation? And that precipitation can be rain, it could be snow, it could be a variety of water. You have your cloud cover, you have your landforms, body waters, you have your elevation, how much you are above sea level, and then you have your air movement also. Now, the last thing you look at then is some of the items that you read about yesterday. Your hurricanes, your tornadoes, your blizzards, your droughts, and your floods. Hopefully you got an understanding of what some of these items were and what causes them yesterday in your readings. If you didn't, we have to make sure that we go back and read some of those because we'll get questioned on some of those on a short test or quiz coming up very, very shortly. That's our wrap for our first set of notes. Make sure that we follow instructions for the next thing that we need to do, which is just simply going through. You have a list of different climates that you need to get a definition of and look at some different pictures of those climates so we get a basic understanding of what's happening with the climate regions on the earth.